Goeiedag, good day, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world.
I've been looking around for salvation. I've been looking around for the truth. All around me I see frustration, and I looked all over till I found you. I sit and listen to your stories, and you're telling me, please don't worry. There's a lot in this world you should know, and love in life is where you should go. If you're looking for somewhere to go, if you're looking for someone to know, if you're looking for someone to guide you, then love in life will guide you.
Goeienaand, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world, and welcome to tonight's live stream. There are still no results on the presidential vote in the United States, and it does not look good for Trump, who is now suing several states over voter fraud. I've heard there could be a sting in the tail, as there is a rumor that the Republicans have a way of identifying ballots that were illegally printed by Democrat supporters. So that's going to be very interesting to follow. Let's now introduce our guest, Dennis Ras, from the Institute of let me get this right, from the Institute Strategie Beplanning. On the 23rd of April, 1994, a legal accord and how the Afrikaners and Boers, which includes minority whites, can retain their cultural identity. And this is a copy of that accord. Let's have a look at it. An accord on Afrikaner self-determination between the Freedom Front, the African National Congress, and the South African government and National Party, and it's signed by all relevant parties. And this relates to the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, Act 200 of 1993, as amended. And again, you can see all the signatures on it. And you've got Thabo Mbeki, you've got Constant Viljoen from the Freedom Front, you've got Rolf Meyer as the Minister of Constitutional Development on behalf of the government and the National Party, witnessed by Professor Abraham Viljoen and Mr. Jürgen Kogel. So why am I showing you all this? Well, let me tell you. Tonight we will be discussing this accord and how the Afrikaan or Boer, which includes the minority whites, can retain their cultural identity. So, without any further ado, let me get Dennis on so we can get the show on the road. Hi, Dennis.
How are you, sir?
Excellent, thank you. Excellent. I've just I've just shown the viewers the 1994 Accord document signed by the members of Parliament, etc., etc., Thabo and Mbeki and so on.
Yes.
So, because we're going to be talking about that a bit later. But just to get the show on the road, where are the Afrikaner Boer people with regards to their place in South Africa? And let's start off looking at the economy and what the ANC have done to it.
Well, you can look around yourself and see what the ANC have done with the whole economy, and you don't even have to go further than Cyril Ramaphosa himself. In the beginning, well, let's say March of this year, April. You remember when he said that it's going to be an economical reformation, and since then, if you look at how the economical reformation has just went in a down spiral and how it affects all the people in the country. Now take that and add the whole BBEE, triple E thing. And in the beginning of the lockdown, they promised some funds coming to businesses for some rescue. And the next moment, it was only if you fall under the triple B or the double B, triple E criteria.
Or if you're black.
And that's the concern. Sorry?
Or if you're black.
Well, if you're black.
Yeah. Now,
so if you take that now and you go further where we are now, the last thing that Ramaphosa said was that farms now need to be BEE compliant, and businesses are going to be pushed for 75% BEE compliancy if you're not black. So that in itself summarizes the whole economical position of where the Afrikaner people themselves are, or the white people. You can't, it's so blatant that it's a black and white thing. It's not even a Afrikaner or ethnical thing. If it was an ethnical thing, BEE would have been just for, the Afrikaner people, but it's a black-white thing. And a black-white thing is basically racism. So they're playing the racism game, but from our side, we just need to acknowledge and bend the knee.
Now, hasn't BEE just been declared illegal in the courts?
Yeah, well, putting a mask on by, what's his name, Reino de Beer as well. It's illegal to put it, or it's not, legally forcible to put a mask on. So this whole lockdown is now illegal, but still, it's not being enforced. And I know if you take the whole, all the court cases the last few months, it's always been challenged back by government. So I know they're going to challenge the whole thing. So it's still going to be a while until things go back to normal. But this is the thing. Will it go back to normal? Will they accept the BEE that it's not legal anymore?
Yeah, they're also talking about the Great Reset next year. But that's
yeah. If you look at the Great Reset. If you look at if you go back to Robert Kiyosaki's one of his conversations he had with regards to the Black Swan, and without going into conspiracies, and you look at I think it's 2008 when America had their big reset, when the whole financial system fell apart and Fannie Mae and all those banks went bankrupt.
Right.
He said in 2006 that the boomers are starting to going to retirement, and there is not enough money in one day in the whole world's foreign stock exchange to pay the monthly retirement fund. So if you take that, and he said in 2008 there's going to be a financial collapse, and it happened. Now, if you look at what China did, I think it's twice that they devaluated the currency.
Right.
And if you take also the whole the age, how old the tipping balance of the workforce's age, it was inevitable that there would have been a international economical reset. And also another interesting thing on that point is that everything is starting to move back to the gold standard. If some people haven't noticed that. So I think it's 2028, 2030. They are planning to go back to the gold standard, which is quite interesting. So this whole reset is much larger than we think.
Right. Now, a bit later, we're going to be talking about secession. But before we do, I just want to bring up, because you brought up gold, the gold standard, which is basically money being backed by gold and silver. Now, I don't know if you are aware, but the ULA, I had an interview with Hein Marks a few days ago, and the ULA have now brought out their coins, which are in gold and silver. So they're actually going to have a rare metal or investment metal based currency instead of a fiat currency, which is a great way to go. Now, let's carry on with the subject about where are the Afrikaner Boer people with regards to safety and security when you look at what's happening in South Africa today.
Where do you want me to start? Normandy? You want me to start in 2015? Let's broaden the argument. Okay,
right.
Just to make it fair. And the question here is it just with regards to farm murders? Because this is a buzzword for the last year, I think, 10 months at least. But let's just argue it a little bit wider. So back in 2015, even further back, but let's take 2015. What was the previous minister of it? Mbalula, remember? Mbalula went onto the media and said, domestic violence is equal to domestic terrorism. And he's going to release the blue dogs on this whole thing to end domestic violence. And since then, a lot of ministers regurgitated the same old. Nothing happened.
Right. 2019,
Cyril Ramaphosa. From 2019, he was at one of the Women's Day meetings and things, and he said that domestic violence is of urgent matter to government, and they're going to put things in place to end domestic violence. And you go back to the lockdown. Just after the first lockdown, 21 days ended, and Ramaphosa made some statements. He said, it's as if it never happened before. It's this whole thing of domestic violence is of great concern. And the lockdown just showed us how big the problem is.
Yeah.
As if it's something new created by the lockdown. So they're always just moving the argument and making empty promises, just making statements. So it's playing a political game the whole time. So if you take that same argument and you bring it into context with farm murders and the security of safety.
Can I just say that tomorrow night I'm going to be talking to advocate Pixie Pink on children and women abuse in South Africa. Pixie is an activist against abuse. So, that's going to be a very interesting discussion. Please, back to you.
No, that's very important. I would definitely love watching that. Sad, but good that you're going to have that interview.
Right.
Okay, so Ramaphosa, same argument here. Are they really concerned about the safety of the farmer community, of the Boer people, of the farmer communities?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No,
it's so in your face. It's so in your face. Go back to Senegal 2. I don't want to hammer on it, but it's the latest and it's still fresh in our minds.
Right.
You remember when Tsele had the meeting with the Horner family?
Yeah.
So, we knew from the start, this is just a political stunt.
Yeah.
I mean, he knew that the Boer people, the Afrikaners are alles gatvol, okay?
Yeah.
And the tipping point's already been reached. So trying to salvage at least some position, he played that. And I think it was distasteful in the first place. So what's the next thing that happened, and where did Tsele go and sit in the court? 16th
right next to Julius
October.
Malema.
Okay, so did he go and sit there and say, Julius, jou stout seentjie, stop saying kill the farmer, kill the Boer? He just sat. I mean, outside of court, they were shouting kill the farmer, kill the Boer, and all those happy chappy songs. And inside Bekele, have you ever thought of how the family would have felt while they watched those two sitting next to each other? And a week, not even 2 weeks back, Cele sat in their own living room. I think that is...
Well, the problem is, Dennis, that Cele's got an IQ of about 25. I mean, he's only there because he's an ANC cadre. Yeah, that high, exactly. Yeah, no, I totally get it. I just want to address people watching at the moment. We're getting close to 350 watching right now. Guys, please remember to subscribe to be kept informed. And if you have questions you want to put to Dennis, please just put them in the side chat and I'll pose those to him later. Okay, back to you, Dennis. So we're talking about safety and security, and we're talking about Julius Malema. Are the Afrikaners or Boers really the aggressors as portrayed by the EFF and the ANC?
Oh, yes. We are the biggest aggressors, and we are a threat to this country's safety and of all the people in the world. Who attacked Clicks? And who was blamed in the end? If you go back, I mean, Scott, be honest. You've been having these interviews numerous times, and you've been showing images of the EFF with their with all the games they are playing. So the question is, why aren't government seeing why aren't the media seeing the truth behind this? Why are they always saying, the first time, remember, it's the first time since 94, 95, it's the first time that the Afrikaner people, the Boer people, really stood up for their, not even for their rights, not just gatful. I mean, you've been provoked the whole time, but you're not allowed to do anything. So it's not that, I mean, it's just go through the history, watch all the footage in the archives of the news. Show me one place where our people have tipped a truck or attacked, it actually sounds funny, attacked a Nyala that ran through the crowd, almost killing somebody. Yeah. And now they say, yeah, we're aggressive. But how many times did the EFF rolled cars, burned vehicles, burned buildings?
Well, there's a very interesting point you make there, and that is about the media. And I want to touch on that because as far as I'm concerned, the mainstream media in South Africa are bought and paid for by the ANC government. They're fake news. I mean, you know, we have the example of News 24, who've basically refused to report on things that are anti-ANC, even though they're sticking out so openly, and the EFF as well. It looks like the mainstream media in South Africa are scared of the ANC and the EFF. And let's face it, some reporters have been threatened by the EFF, and nothing's ever been done about that. You know, there seems to be a huge disconnect between what is actually going on in South Africa and the crap that gets put out there by the mainstream media in South Africa. And that's why the alternative media, like this Loving Life channel, is so important, because we call a spade a spade. What are your views on the mainstream media and the alternative media, the role they play?
To be fair, I think there was some changes. I've had this conversation with some of the News 24 journalists, and I think the focus, or my perception on this whole thing, is that they rather withhold certain events or just don't cover it. In certain newspapers, yes, fake news, it's, or let's say, a twisted truth.
Yeah, distorted.
One-sided truth, distorted, and one-sided, definitely. So fake news, more of a distorted view or a one-sided view, or focusing on one thing. I mean, let's take Senekal one again. The Afrikaner people were at the end of negotiation. They were gatful, you know. How many farm murders do we see in 1 year, in 1 month, 1 week? And then you see the brutality behind it.
Yeah.
And then they act upon that. I mean, there's a young boy, and I can go into the whole thing again and bring up old pains, but rather than pointing out that there's a problem in this country with regards to fairness and addressing the problem of farm murders, they rather focus on a bucky has been overturned and set alight. You see, so it's media. Social media is not helping to get the problem sorted out. They're playing a game, and as you say, it's definitely there's a lot of fear. I've been in discussion a few years ago with in the Western Cape how the ANC, when they need money, they go to the businesses, and it's not, I heard it firsthand, it's not third,
Right.
They went to the few businesses, and say, listen, big companies. So listen, we've got this thing, we need some money, 10,000, 20,000, whatever it is. If they refuse, they go on strike. If they refuse, they burn something down.
Yeah.
So definitely, it's fearing it's an economical fear with regards to the media, who controls it. It's your advertisers. So if you don't play the game of the advertisers, you definitely fall prey to the cunningness. Going back to the alternative media, I don't think alternative media in the broad sense has been bought out by some companies. I hope not. I don't see it. Such as your one of your platform as well, Loving Life. Definitely, there's other alternative media that also play a great part in it. I'm not sure if I may name it, but definitely. There's a difference between the two sides.
Yeah. Now, I just want to say that getting back to Senegal and the media, wasn't it interesting, despite being a major event, how few of the media actually attended? It was really just the alternative media like Loving Life, which was covering it live, that actually showed what was going on. And the thing, just to answer my own question about are the Afrikaners and Boers really the aggressors? At Senegal, you had an area where the bikers had been allocated a particular part of the town. And the EFF came out of their allocated area and actually confronted the bikers in Senegal. And there's video footage of that. You can't dispute it. Clearly, the EFF, not the Afrikaners or Boers or the minority whites who were attending in Senegal, were the aggressors. They were the ones who were actually trying to calm things down when the EFF were getting really confrontational. Now, okay, let's move on from Senegal.
Okay, just if I may just add something there.
Yeah.
Okay, we were part of that whole thing, and the whole plan was to keep our people out of town. Because we didn't know what we we're going to expect there. We knew what the whole, the emotional side of our people were. So, and this is a very crucial thing, and why we are doing things the way we are doing it behind the scenes. We were going there on their terms. And you can't go to an event or into a negotiation or discussion if you go on somebody else's terms, which you know is going to be distorted in the end of the day.
Right.
Two things that bothered me there is if you look at the whole where the police stood, and I'm not throwing any stones. It's just an afterthought, and which we saw in the beginning, and why we approached the whole thing the way we did. Is if you look at how the EFF flanked that specific point where our people were standing and the bikers were standing.
Yeah,
it wasn't a very safe place. So first of all, they flanked and basically were pushed against the mountain there, or the little koppie.
Yeah.
But if you look at where the Wimpy is, that crossing, if the SAP is just stood on the other side, on the EFF side of that crossing, there would have been an open way of getting out of there easy. But they just stood on the wrong side.
Right.
They expected it, but we saw it in the beginning when we got there, trying to get the people out there, or assisting in getting them out. We saw that they're going to flank, and it was an unsafe place. So why did the police, in the first place, put our people there? And in the second place, how did the EFF land so close to the court? Not being an event for them. I mean, we said first we're going to Senegal. And persistent, that's all they want to do. And it's on their terms, not on our terms.
Right. Well, I have to say that most of the people who were there supporting the EFF, I put that in inverted brackets, were actually paid to attend. They were bussed in and they were paid to attend. And, you know, some people who attended the actual day in Senegal saw these guys later. And they greeted them, and they were not sort of hostile towards the white community, and they had their bags. I think they'd got 50 or 200 rand each just to attend. So of course they attended. You know, it was a payday and a holiday. But let's now move on.
But just take there. If you look at that whole thing, do you understand that the EFF doesn't have any substance in there? It's more bark than
of course.
Bite.
Yeah.
So people get scared of the masses, but if you look at how when they flanked and the police just moved forward, they just ran. There's no. It's like Julius. I'm going to use his own words. He's just a crybaby. He didn't even come and meet us toe to toe.
Yeah. No, I totally
Okay.
agree with you. But Senegal did demonstrate how tied up the ANC and the EFF are, and that's self-evident when you look at Bekesele and Julius Malema in that courthouse. I mean, they're one and the same. I say the EFF is a terrorist arm of the ANC because they aren't a political party;
Absolutely.
they're a terrorist organization. Okay, so let's move on. Despite Bekesele.
True. And they've been
Sorry, I lost that, Dennis. What did you say? I lost what you said just a moment ago.
No, you can continue. It's fine.
Okay. No,
I can't even remember.
Okay, we have here a few little network issues, but it's pretty good most of the time. Now, are the Afrikaners or Boers still available for discussions with the South African Police Service after the manner in which that what used to be a really good police service is now just seen as a corrupt organization of government? What are your views on that? Of
wanting to go into discussions with the SAPS?
Yeah, just
No way. There's no way we want to go into any discussions and anymore. I think in general, with the research that we've done and the conversations and discussions in general, from the bottom all the way up, ons het klaar gepraat. I mean, they had their chances of meeting us on a reasonable discussion space. So we were going look at how many conversations and meetings the farmer unions had until now, and it didn't bring. There was no fruit out of it.
Right.
Telly blatantly at Normandin said, it's not a problem. It's not his problem. Just you don't get hurt. And you look where they side, on which side they are sitting. What more do we have to talk about? What do we need to talk to you about? What more do they want to know from us, or what more can we do? And I think Senegal one was that Rubicon moment where we just crossed and there's no way around. Yes, if they want to meet with us, no problem, on our terms and when we deem it necessary. But we're not going to sit around the table and year on year empty promises, knowing that they are still playing out the agenda since they took over, even since whenever they started off. So nothing has changed. If you go and look, and Ramaphosa also said it himself, you're just boiling a frog, bit by bit and slowly. Go over the last 26 years, what was promised in or 1994. Go and look at what was promised, and see where we are now.
Well, we certainly aren't a rainbow nation anymore.
There's no white in a rainbow nation, and not black. There's no rainbow nation. It's just playing of words. Yeah. You know, the closest I can get to a rainbow nation is riding on unicorns in glitter. It's not going to happen.
A fantasy world.
It's not going to happen. No. Look, we've done everything we can do. I mean, we've done everything. What more can we do? What more can we do from our side just before I could continue, how do you guys refer to the white people in this country? Well, the Afrikaner or is it Boer?
Boers, Afrikaners, doesn't really worry me.
Yes. It's almost like deciding were you screaming, were you siding with the Blue Bulls or Western Province? You know, it's one of those.
I have so many friends who are Afrikaners, you so many friends who are Boers.
Yeah, you say Boer on one side and the Afrikaners want to kill you. Say Afrikaners on one side. Anyway, it's just a lighter side.
Well, that brings me to the next point. Now, you're the director of the Institute of Strategy Planning. Tell us what the Institute of Strategy Planning is and why it was established.
About 2.5 years back, a few of our business associates and friends got entangled in discussions of, you know, playing scenarios. If something happens on this side, you know, what we're going to do and how you're going to play out. Are we again going to hide away some, food in the mountains, etc.? How are we going to approach this time with everything, you know, moving towards a certain environment?
Right.
And it was just academical, you know, discussions around a fire, etc. And last year, to be honest, now that I think about it, last year about this time, a little bit earlier, I just had this, you know, in my actual business with as an NLP coach, you start seeing the movements. I call them the ants. So you start seeing how the ants move around, and you get that feeling of the rhythm, etc. And then a leaf falls in front of them, and it's total chaos. And I started seeing that chaos. So I went to some friends of mine. We're actually in our small group at church, and I told them, "Listen, I've got this thing in my heart, and I need to do this, but I don't want to do it. Nobody else is going to do it." You know, and I thought, it's just ego and ambition. Just let it go. But when COVID started, I saw something. One of the we actually there were 3 scenarios that we started playing off. One or the other. You know, you had 3. It's the COVID thing, and then you've got the military thing that started when Ramaphosa rolled out the military, and the third one was the economy. So one of those three things is going to bite somebody somewhere in the butt.
Right.
And that's where we started seeing this is going somewhere, and we need to get ahead of this. This thing is going to suck us in, and it's going to rip us apart. And then when Ramaphosa said that, we said economical reform, I just knew this is the perfect storm of getting rid of their biggest problem, which is the Afrikaner people. And anyway, you know, you somebody refers you and say, phone this guy and you phone that guy. And eventually we started building small little teams, you know, discussion groups.
Right.
And it matured to a point in June, July, where things got to a point when we now need to sort something out. And my biggest aim at that stage still being, you know, obviously surrounded by good people with knowledgeable people around me. I always keep knowledgeable people. Something a friend taught or showed me a little quote of, you know, if you're the brightest and the most knowledgeable person in a room, get out of there. You don't belong there. So it always stuck to me. There's a lot of knowledgeable people that don't see each other. So the whole thing was to work in the shadows, work behind the scenes, because I've got this philosophy that we are not doing something wrong. We are just not doing one thing right. And I've learned that from Nokia when the co-founder or the CEO at that stage, when they closed down, he had his last speech, and he said that we just didn't do one thing right. And I think that's what we are doing. We don't do one thing right. If you look at all the extraordinary things that the Afrikaner people invented and how they just think and the way they just do things, it's different and it's working. But the one thing we're not doing right is we don't see each other. We don't know about each other's efforts. And I think when we go into the discussion, are we ever going to work together? I think this is the whole thing. We're definitely working towards something. So the two things that the Institute is working on is getting people to see each other and making them do what they do stronger. I mean, I'm referring to Stephen Covey's 7 Habits. I can do something great and you can do something extraordinary, but together we can just do it so much better. And I think that's the principle that we are focusing on. And the other thing is sorting out issues. In the background, we don't like to be seen. If there's an issue, if two companies or two groups or two individuals can't sort something out and we pick it up, we just go and resolve it and let them just empower themselves and start working together. So that's the one thing. And the other thing we're focusing on is, there's a few things. I'll get to that now. But the Institute of Strategy Planning is still young. We actually haven't gotten to the point of really getting our hands on the whole scope of things. We're just at this stage, we're just trying to get things sorted out, getting things implemented, resolving issues with regards to getting farm murders stopped. That's the whole thing. But there's so many things running around, stopping the EFF, building a case against the EFF, trying to get Julius Malema to phone me so that him and I can have our toe-to-toe meeting and resolve some issues. But it's now hands on deck. It's all hands on deck doing what we need to do. So the Institute of Strategy Planning, we actually didn't have a name until a few months ago. And then we decided, but that's what we're going to do. That's where we are needed. So we're fulfilling a function. And we're not trying to duplicate things. The whole thing is just to get everybody together. And the focal point, that vision, that focal point of, and it's not a false start. That will happen whenever we get there. Sorry, I don't know the English of it. And the false haste, that's basically getting the people together. So, that's the way we started, and we enjoy what we're doing. I've been actually away from home now for 15 weeks or almost.
Wow.
15 weeks.
Well, look, I have to say that it's looking very good in South Africa when it comes to Eendracht maak Macht. When I first started talking to different groups, they wouldn't talk to each other. And now I'm absolutely delighted that some of those groups are now actually working very closely with each other. And I think it's reached a stage in South Africa where they've got no choice. Because, this feral government, they're destroying the country. And it's about time the adults in the room took back control. And we're going to be talking about that aspect of, how the Boer Afrikaners can get like an independent republic or whatever you like to call it. We'll get to that just now. But are there any other objectives of the ISB that you'd like to raise at this stage, just so people have a clearer idea?
Sure, yes. Well, in the bigger picture, it's strengthening existing initiatives. It is especially increasing knowledge of self. I mean, if you look at how people are built, you build yourself from the inside out, but you build a nation from the bottom upwards.
Right.
So it's those foundations, and knowledge is a great thing. It's knowledge of who we are, not what the EFF says we are, not what the ANC says we are.
Right.
It's not what the world and the media want to make us to be, but it's knowing who we are. And I believe we are the way God created us, and we're good people. Yes, you get those one or two odd ones out. I mean, it's there. But if you look at the bigger group, definitely, I don't see, we're friendly people. We can argue. Yes, we can, but we're friendly people. We want, but the biggest thing, Scott, we want things to work out. We want this country to be great.
Yeah.
You know, almost like Donald Trump, we want it to be great again. What is worse? Okay, so let's just argue this. We want to make this country work. Government is breaking it down this side.
Yeah.
And we want to make this country work, and they want to break it down this side. Who gets the blame?
Yeah, apartheid.
We get the blame.
Apartheid. Oh, no, even better, Jan van Riebeck. We actually have
I think if he knew what was lying ahead for me, he would have never set anchor to Cape Town. There wouldn't be any. Yeah,
well, we actually have a moderator on my channel who's called Jan van Riebeck, so we always have a bit of a laugh when we come to that.
Oh, ouch.
Okay, back to you.
He should change his name to Koos van der Merwe or something. Okay, but anyway, so the objectives are new. There's a lot of objectives. Look, we are working towards eventually our own piece of land. That's what we're working on. We own it. We own certain parts of this country. We'll get to that later. So the thing is, we need to get our people in one piece on the other side. Okay, not in coffins, in one piece. I don't want war. Nobody wants war. But you know, sometimes life just throws you a curveball. But we're focusing on the economy. We're focusing on building an internal structure. So when we get to that, when we cross the Jordan, we at least have an economy. We have a grouping in a structured manner, and we have that feeling of greatness. I don't think it's wrong to feel great. I don't think it's wrong to feel that to enjoy who we are. Yes, I'm white and I enjoy it. I love it. As much as Julius Malema, or I don't want to mention that guy's name. I think I'm going to be crucified by some people, and especially my friends, because they told me don't swear on Scott's program. So sorry for that word. But other people, they feel great. I've got a few business associates that from other ethnic groups, and they are wanting to feel great about themselves, because if they feel great about themselves, we're going to do great business together. Yeah. I mean, so that's the attitude that we have. And the other thing is focusing on ourselves. So we need to build strategies, and we can't build strategies and focusing on the pillars that we need for the folk start or whatever lies ahead. We need the people driving those pillars, filling up those positions. We need to build that. So it's focusing, and this is very important. Vir julle daar buitekant, luister wat Dennis sê. We need to focus on ourselves. We've got the strength. We've got the attributes that and everything that we need to build this Afrikaner nation again. We've got everything. We just need to stop looking and waiting for Donald Trump or whatever, not even Biden. We must stop waiting for government to do something for us. They will never do something. I mean, wait up. So we've got everything we need to build our nation, ons volk, and we just need to do it. That's it. We just need to do it. And that's what I think the whole the Institute of Strategic Planning is focused on. On the safety side, just to end that question, on the safety and security side, we are definitely focusing on working together in behind the scenes. And I have to tell you, my actual focus is we need to get to the economy, but we had to build the whole safety environment as well. And what a great group of people. Once you start talking and you listen what they are focusing on, nobody's focusing really on starting a war. Really. I couldn't find Well, okay, with the exception of 2 or 3 people, most of the people don't want war. So we're focusing on different things. But the safety, people just want to feel safe. The discussion you're going to have with, what's her name, Pixie Ping tomorrow.
Yeah,
it's about feeling safe. People just want to feel safe.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all. So anyway.
Now, just on that subject of having your own territory, you look at the model of Orania. You know, I guess you're talking to the people from Orania in the Northern Cape, and you know, I'm sure that's sort of an area that almost acts like a model for developing areas for the group of people who would have their own cultural home, if I can put it that way.
Okay, let's analyze not only Orania, but let's analyze any place that you want to build something. Right. First of all, it needs to be economical viable. So the strategic position. I mean, if you go and purchase property, the estate agents always say position, 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 position. That makes it work or not.
Right.
So this is the same principle. Is it strategically positioned, and for what purpose? So either you can position it to be safe, or you can position it to make money, or both. It depends. So if I would have looked at choosing whatever property or land I would choose, it would be focused especially on resources. Resources are good, and you know, resources can also be your neighbors, so you have to have good neighbors. There's always a trade possibility. A harbor, definitely, you want to export. So things like that. Safety, definitely, but safety is something that you can work on. Yes, some people will argue not too close to cities, or not too close to certain communities which are aggressive towards the Afrikaner people. So those, you need to take that into consideration. Orania does have good principles and good ideas. I just haven't been in a real discussion with him to understand exactly what their strategies are. So, but for if I would have done it, I don't think I would have chosen that position from an economical perspective, but I could be wrong. Just to bring that into perspective, we are busy working, and I encourage everybody that's listening, they want to participate in this and partake in it, please contact me. You know, Scott, if I may just divert a little bit, but it's still in context, I promise you. The rabbit hole does end up in the same main shaft. If you go back to the beginning of COVID, there was a big uprise in basic needs, food. Right. So the food parcel the food parcel organizations popped up. It should have been a short-term solution, but it's become a long-term problem now, and it's a one-way expense. So everybody just pops in money, and you don't get something back into it. Right. So there's so what we are trying to do is roll out a few. I don't want to call it kibbutz. But for lack of a better description for now, and it includes your little small factories and things. If you, to take an example, the model that works now for the last 20-30 years is the Philadelphia Arc in north of Pretoria.
Oh, I know it well.
Dirk van Vuur.
Yes.
You know, great.
Amazing, okay. Man.
Amazing, so just imagine a whole network of those kibbutz, or those, let's call it kibbutz.
Yeah.
Okay, forgive me. So let's say you've got about 30 kibbutzes all around the country, strategically placed, close to resources, so that you can manufacture and you can produce certain foods and products. And they start trading between themselves. And also, people from the outside can purchase directly from them. So you've got an interaction between the farms on which these kibbutzes are.
Right.
You address safety immediately. So you've got a spread of your communities, and you take all the people that has now fallen into that that ditch of need, you have a way of putting them back into the economy. So suddenly, and that's what Dirk's doing in there, they trading off certain commodities and produce for other stuff, and that's how they trade. So now you're starting a parallel economy, and that's what we've been working now on for 2.5 years. Never knew that it's going to happen, but it's not about the institute. It's not about the ISB. This is about you guys out there that need to start pitching in. It's you guys out there that need to start putting your hands on deck and assist us and make this thing work. This is not a one-man show. It's not about leaders running the country or running the Afrikaner people. It's about the people on the ground that needs to take the spades and the forks, that need to take it in their own hands and start. We need to start working this whole thing. It's about us working together.
Right. Now, I just want to quickly address people watching. We've got close to 450 watching at the moment. If you're new to the Loving Life channel, please remember to subscribe. My guest tonight is Dennis Ras, who is the director of the Institute of Strategy Planning, and we're talking about basically what is the road ahead. And you mentioned earlier about the division between the Afrikaner and the Boer, and we didn't take it any further, but I would like to know, are we winning the war against division within these two groups?
Absolutely, absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, I think it's all about having that same goal, reaching something. You know, there's one little drawing that I always draw when I talk to people, and it's this little, Miss Whippies. What's the English for it? That the roosters are scraping together and they make this little pile and they stand on top of this little pile.
Oh, so top of the pile.
Yeah, so we have the saying of, building your bow, your Miss Whippy, and then we, the rooster crow on it. That's a natural thing that happens. And for a moment, just for the argument of this part of the discussion, just keep the ego out of it. So sometimes it's about ego, but this is not mostly about ego. The point I want to make is, same as what happened to me last year, is you get to a point where you say, nobody else is going to do it. If I don't do it, it's not going to happen. So you do it, whatever it is, safety or whatever, food parcels, etc. But then you get to a point when you reach that top, that peak, and then you find yourself, this is not going higher, but I need to maintain it. And then you find yourself as this rooster on top of the Miss Whip, which is not in this. It's not bad.
Yeah.
But where it becomes bad is when another rooster builds another, scrapes another heap next to you. Then you start comparing. Yes, but mine is better than yours. Because the focus now is lost. What was the original focus?
Yeah.
So the moment that I talk about volkshuis, the grouping of the people under a specific ethnic house.
Right.
So in Afrikaans, the volkshuis. So the moment you talk about we are building a volkshuis, all these little Miss Whippies find themselves under this higher, what's not Miss Whip, but this higher roof. And then that's where they start seeing, but we're actually working towards something similar. And that's where you get the buy-in. So the moment there's a focal point, the moment we talk about volkshuis, not volksstaat, not secession or self-determination, that's way ahead. But for now, we're focusing on just getting our people there, just getting our people excited of who they are, excited that we make the difference among ourselves, and that's going to be the difference that this whole country needs in the end. And it's not, us, white privilege again. I'm touching I'm trading on fearful ground now. But it's not us being gods of this world. It's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is if we just do what we do and do it all extraordinary and we enjoy what we're doing and we find ourselves among each other just being who we are, I think that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So yes, we're definitely starting to work around. You also mentioned something that that we don't have a choice. Yes, we don't have a choice.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
But in the end, it should not be, yes, but it should not end that we do not have a choice. Yes, we don't have a choice, so what now? And now we start focusing on building ourselves internally,
Yeah.
building ourselves from inside, getting back that feeling of worthiness. I think that's the whole thing that the EFF and the ANC government's trying to get away from us. And also division is the best attack. So what they're trying to maintain is they're trying to divide us. So going back to the Afrikaner Boer thing, just taking that as a tongue-in-cheek example. And this is the sad part of it. If you look at what happened in the past, the history shows that we were referred to as the Boer people. And then the Afrikaner word came into play.
Right.
So it's history other way around. And there's nothing about being a right side Afrikaner, Rass, or the far right, or your liberal Afrikaner. Yes, those are attached. And it's sad that we attach these type of attributes to the same word. So yes, we are Boer people by historical evidence. And then we became Afrikaners, and now we just something. We need to get back to it. So I don't really have a problem with the Afrikaner and Boer. Sadly, referring to the Boere or Boer people, the first thing that you get in mind is the beer, and but even they are great people. You go to the Bible. The Israelites had the Gideon group. I don't think the Gideons were the guys that took candles to church. I think those were the guys, that ate. They chew while we're talking, and they were spitting. They were the rough guys. Yeah. But if it wasn't for Gideon and his guys, it would have been another outcome in history. Same with David.
I want to touch on something you raised, and that is that I think most people in the minority white group in South Africa feel that they've lost control of their lives. And I think what they're having this direction where they can regain control of their lives and have the safety and those sort of things is really what we're talking about here.
True. Scott, go back again, just to make the argument wider and to keep the playfields level. Go to your old age homes. Okay? Even with, go to your old age homes. Let's stick there. And you go and walk through there. Most of the older homes, the old people are sitting there. Those are the lovely people. If you start talking to them, they're awesome.
Yeah.
And especially if they have sweets with them, you go and visit twice. But if you walk through there, they're just sitting there waiting to die.
Yeah.
But the moment you start talking to them and you start, joking with them, and taking them back into their youth, if you start engaging with them in a positive way, I promise you, they had years back, I can't remember when, they did a exercise, I think it's in England. They took 75 years and older, a group of old men. They took them to a youth camp. There were volleyball nets and soccer nets, but they told them they must bring clothes equal to the age they remember in high school. So they did that. And the outcome was so extraordinary. People that came in walking on canes, they walked out there with no canes. People's knees that had problems with knees, it cured within a week after that. And even some guys like me, their hair started growing. They actually had increase, some of them had increase in length. That just shows you that if you excite people and you make them feel good about themselves, something happens internally, physically, mentally. And that's what we need. That's why we focus on building this internal folks huis.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Okay. Now
and also,
we'll get to that in a moment. I just want to continue on the subject of everybody seems to have secession. That seems to be the word, the operative word at the moment, or a Volksstaat, or internal self-determination. How does your organization differ from that when it comes to the focus?
Okay, we need to work on facts. So if you want to go into that discussion or that argument and argue which are the 2 or the 3 or 20 is going to happen, we need to look at what the legal stance are for all of those arguments. I don't want to tread on toes. I don't want to, push the narrative in a way where we start a new argument on social media. It's not what I want to do. But if I can make a point, a general point, we need to look at what the law says. So if you look at secession, just taking one thing, and that's the only problem that I have with it, is that secession, Quebec, when they wanted to secede from Canada, they lost the application because it said that it's not an ethnical group that want to secede from Canada. It's a mixed ethnical group, right. And that's where it comes in. You can't. There's no way secession can happen with a multicultural group. Unfortunately, that's what the law says. So if you go, if you can read Professor Dennis Ras, they did great research for Tabak Trust. I think he's from Stellenbosch, yes, University. I think he's retired by now. But anyway, they did great research and they brought the argument way back from, I think, earlier than the 600s to understand, can we secede or can we apply for internal self-determination, or then full self-determination.
Right.
So those are basically the 3 ways of looking at it. Or just take over the country, just bomb everybody and you have nothing left and then you rebuild. So the only other way secession can happen, and I think Heinmarks mentioned that when at Synagogue 2, I think he was on the bucky saying something there, but I remember one thing that he said is, remember, if something happens and the police shoots or anybody shoots here, if a war starts, we can secede.
Yeah.
So that's the 2 ways you can do it. But in my point of view, with regards to what I've read, and if the guys that want to secede have any other information for us, we'll definitely. But it's not for us to choose. We're just working to get everybody talking. That's the whole thing. And I think this is also very important, Scott. I think we need to get the guys that are working on these secessions and the self-determination, get those lawyers and attorneys and people talking. I think it's as if we're playing 2 sides of the field. Yeah. And it's not what we need to do. If we have different models, let's just benchmark these models. Let's sit around the table and we start working on these models and see what works and what does not work. Because if it becomes a battle between the 2 sides, it's an ego thing. And we can't, no way, we don't have time for ego now. Really. We don't have time. It's about what's work, put all our efforts in there and just starting to work with it. So the other side of self-determination, according to the international law, falls interesting. It falls under human rights. So it's your human right towards self-determination, to self-determinate. That's quite interesting to look at. And
right, we'll be getting to the 1994 Accord shortly, but I just want to continue on with this discussion regarding a Volksstaat and a Volkshuis. What is the significance of focusing on a Volkshuis or House of the People versus Land of the People?
Okay, this is our point of view. Okay, so we're trying to look at easy models to follow. And if you look at 26 years down the line, we were pushing forward and then we're pushing back. We were not toying, we were up. There was some uprise or some unhappiness about how we were treated and how we are treated. But this year, something different happened. This year, we saw an enormous resistance against the COVID lockdown. And especially if you look at how the farm murders just increased, it went haywire. Interesting on a side note is how the CIT, the cash in transit heists and farm murders, how they play they play like a seesaw the whole time. Interesting, just on a side note. So we saw the farm murders and all the actions that happened with regard to the farm murders. You know, the bikers, 42,000 bikers getting together.
Right.
That was amazing.
It was.
I was in town at that stage. It was extraordinary. You saw the national drive with the vehicles, the tractors and the things. And especially when there were trials after the farm murder, we saw all these communities just blocking roads, just standing up and saying, we had enough. We need to sort something out. We need to get to a point where we sort these things out. So that's the catalyst. So in Afrikaans, we refer to it as a volksveiligheid threat. And that threat catalyst, normally what happens after that, you get an uprising. So that's basically where the emotions start increasing. And we refer to that as the volkshart. So the heart of the people. Absolutely, the soul of the people. But if you look at curves, normally at that stage, you know, they vent and then it disappears. And you wait until the next catalyst, and they have that uprise and the emotions boils up and they vent and nothing happens. And I think in this context, it's all about leadership. And I don't want, Scott, we don't focus on the leader on the horse with the brown jacket. Our focus is on existing leaders there in your small group. You make the difference. You know, small groups, big trust. Big groups, small trust. And that's the whole thing. There's no place at the moment. We're looking at the volksart. So people need to get together. So this, the emotions of the people now need to land something. After Senekal 1 and 2, we saw that, especially 1, we knew we need to land the emotions in a winning place, that one step forward while keeping and maintaining that moral ground. That's very important. We need to keep the moral ground, not so much for anything else, but twofold. We are working towards a folk start, whatever you want to call it. But to get there, we need to be alive. We need to have something to work towards. And that's where we are now, to get this volksart, to get the emotions consolidated.
Right.
And that's very important. I mean, just look at your other ethnical groups. They are consolidated.
Yeah.
We are fragmented. So we need to get, if we want to win this thing, if we want to really make a difference in our own lives, we need to get to the point where we consolidate our hearts into a house. And if we have a house, and this house is functional, I mean, we've got a fireplace, we've got a kitchen, we've got a living room, we've got this whole thing in like a spoons full of chutney and jam. If we have a house where we feel safe, back to the safety, where we are fed, back to the economy, where we feel secure and where we feel worthy, that communion, then, and I go back to the Israelites, I mean, before they went through the Jordan, they had that consolidation moment where all the old minds just died off and the renewed minds had the opportunity of going to the promised land. So if we look at the promised land principle, definitely, we can't fight self-determination or secession, whatever you want to call it. We can't get there if we don't have people walking into the promised land. And that's where we are now. So we're focusing on that. And that's energizing our people. That's bringing tangible solutions to the thing. And that's, I think, in the essence of what the ISB is trying to do. Making people, making institutions, getting them together, not consolidating their identities. We need different identities in front. How do you think if the rainbow only had one color? So in the back, getting together, working together, so consolidating our vision, our focal point, and then getting our people solutions, getting our economy, internal economy, the parallel economy running, getting our kibbutzes or that economy going, getting our safety, sorting out. And if you see what we are busy with between all the groups in resolving farm murders, becoming proactive, Scott, we are definitely far ahead without us even knowing. We just need to start doing it. So,
okay, now, what are the chances of succeeding with internal self-determination? And what I'd like to focus on is that accord that was signed in 1994, and I've just put it up on the screen for people. There's the accord. I showed this right at the beginning of the live stream, and if we have a look at the document, you can see it's been signed by the leadership of the ANC, the leadership of the then National Party, and several other people, which basically says an accord on Afrikaner self-determination between the Freedom Front, the African National Congress, and the South African Government National Party. Now, there are a couple of other pages. I'll just quickly bring those on. Again, you can see signatures, and the last page is probably the most interesting, because you can see you've got Constant Viljoen's signature at the top, Thabo Mbeki from the ANC, Rolf Meyer from the National Party, and then you've got two witnesses, Professor Viljoen and Mr. Jürgen Kogel. So we already have a document which is basically there. It's a legal document saying that the Afrikaner Boer people can gain independence or have their own cultural escape. What role does that document play in what we're talking about here?
Well, that's basically what it's all about. I'm not going into detail. I might be corrected by some people, so I'm going to browse over it. The actual person you need to talk to with regards to the beginning, the middle, and the end, and where things are going is, and there's a few guys, I'm going to name one of them, and that's Louis Smuts. He's part of the Tabok Trust. That basically, he was part of the guys, and I can't remember Koos's surname. My apologies, excuse Koos. But there's a few people that was party to the beginning and where this whole accord thing started, the accord started off. And if you go into that moment, you know, the ANC didn't want to, they said they're going to sign it. You know, they're going to agree that the Afrikaner people will be taken care of. The National Party, Rolf Meyer and what's his name, that other woman?
Thabo
Clark. Yes, sorry, de Klerk. Okay. I'm being rude now. Yeah. So F.W. de Klerk and Rolf Meyer, they didn't want to be part of this whole thing. I mean, they just want to get this done and dusted. And I'm not going into what they got out of this, but we know. So the whole thing there was they didn't want to sign. So they were actually forced, indirectly forced to sign this thing. But the ANC at the end didn't want to sign it. So then Constant Viljoen went and he said, guys, if you don't sign it, he contacted, I think, the American embassy, if I remember correctly, and the ANC or somebody. He said, listen, if you don't sign this, we will go to war. End of the argument. So it was a few days before the 1994 elections, and they hastily got this document signed. They had to have a referendum before the elections on the Wednesday, I believe it was. So by Tuesday, if I remember correctly. So I remember it was a Friday evening when Mandela said, okay, he'll sign it, you know. And then the next morning they signed it. And then it was Sunday. Constant and the guys had to plan. What are we going to do? We need to get a referendum and we need to get it signed before the elections. So by the Monday, they printed all the things and Rui will tell you exactly all the details in there. And then they got it signed. So they had the referendum and they had the accord signed. And if it wasn't for that, whatever, look, I've got some questions myself I want to ask Constant Viljoen. So there's, you know, positive and negative, there's 50-50. But for that specific thing, if you take away the names and you just look at what happened, a document that we now value as much as Article 235, we have a way of self-determination as one argument. And I think that is significant of the whole accord. If it wasn't for that document, we wouldn't have anything to fall on. So yes, in the end, the court plays a very big role now with with the book trust going to the international courts to hand in the documents and do the last bit and part of that. What bothers me, and I would like to have an answer on that, is if a lot of things that happen behind the scenes, but I don't know why the Freedom Front Plus now suddenly have all these forum conversations and discussions on something that is already there. And that is what bothers us. Why divide if you can consolidate and add to it? And it bothers me.
Well,
so the court plays a big role, but you need to take it in consideration with Article 235. And Richard Butter, I think, now need to remember, they are from the Christian Democratic Party. They also had it in a document to government with regards to certain content in the Constitution that also needs to be sorted out. But all these things are working towards one thing, and that is a place that we can call our home.
Right, and keep your culture. Retain your culture
and keep our culture.
Yeah, which is very important. Okay.
Boere musiek en braaivleis.
I tell you, it was nothing like a barbecue or a braai with the farmers. Oh wow, amazing. Okay, now
can you guys in Australia, can you still use firewood, or are you?
No, we use gas.
Come on, that's not a braai. That's not a braai.
Yeah,
you must come to South Africa and have a good braai this side.
The trouble, I live in the suburbs, and you can't get the wood, and you can't. So it's easy to just have a gas one. But if I come to South Africa, I'd love to come to a barbecue. Now let's talk about the farmer tax. We have actually touched on this before, but I'd like to get back to that again, because the EFF is really drumming up hate against the Boers and the Afrikaners, with their chants and Julius Malema's public utterances. What can we do about that?
You really want to know, or should I just?
Well, I know what we should do. I mean, I can't say it here, but I know what we should do to Julius Malema. The
first thing is, you mentioned it, that Julius Malema is only just the bad boy in the ANC's whole plan, and that he's got that immunity, or that feeling of immunity, and I think that's what makes him feel strong. But it's false. It's a false feeling of strength there. The first thing is that we need to be persistent. If we continue with what we have started off, remember the black laws or black land first, black laws. No, black. What's this? Angile or something? It's black of lies, black lies, land first, black,
BLF,
something black first, land first.
Black first, land first.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Andili Nixitama.
Okay, remember when? Hey, great. That a foreigner tells me what the guy's name is. That's bad. Okay, so if you go back to, I think it was before last year, where he also started off with this, kill the farmer thing, trying to get on the bandwagon. And we just went and we opened cases against him for hate speech, etc. And we kept him busy in the courts. And then the last death struck was when they were expelled from the IEC.
Right.
So they take him out of party. We need to do the same. He's still in court. I see that he still has some money left. If Julius Malema wants to play the game the way he does, then we need to meet him toe to toe on our terms. So that's where the strategy comes in. And that's where it's very, very important. And the role that we're trying to play in the back is to get all the parties together to strategize and how we're going to do this whole thing. So I'm giving Julius Malema some insight into what we're doing because, you know, at least that other brain cell might be useful this time. So in the end, it's maintaining what we're doing, keeping the pressure. Let me, an instance. I'm actually in Delarable at the moment and working on some stuff in the safety areas. And I've heard about Dr. De Swart that sadly in Sunny's-Half, last week in Sunny's-Half, the EFF came to his practice. Now, you know, it works all around the country the same. You've got your medical, your medical insurance, medical care patients on the one side, and in the other room you've got your state patients. So there's a price difference. You pay $500 and you pay $200, for instance.
Right.
So the EFF came and they embarked on his practice, and they surrounded it and blocked it off, and they started with the intimidation tactics and threatened his life because he's a racist, referring to this practice. And you know, Sunny's-Half only have one doctor and one practice there. So what did he do? He closed it down and he moved and retired in Cape Town. So the EFF is the reason that Sunny's-Half doesn't have a doctor anymore. So now I don't know how far it is, 60, 40 k's from here. Now they have to walk or get a taxi to get to a doctor. And that's what the EFF, they don't even care about their own people. Yeah. They are just there to spread hatred, to spread or to maintain the division between people in this country. But if they want, so actually, you know, Scott, it's actually unfair towards a large majority of people. That a small group that has media coverage, because that's the marketing propaganda machine, if we want to go back to that argument, they've got an open scope. It's like open season. They can do whatever they do. The propaganda and the intimidation they did with that practice now have shot their own people in the feet. I mean, they don't feel anything. It's about him and himself. It's his own ego. But there's always a game behind this. We have to look at the bigger picture. And I think that the intimidation is going to increase now. I'm not sure. I'm just making just pulling a wild card here. Yeah. But we just need to focus. We need to keep them accountable. If you've been intimidated, let us know. We start with building the case against Julius Malema. And in the end, what would be the biggest present that we can give to ourselves as Julius Malema not having access to IEC?
Yeah, well, you know, I love your point that the more people that take out court cases against him or court action against him, the more time he's going to be spending in court. And I can see he hates being in court. When you see him in court, he's just, you know, he's so uneasy because he is such a scoundrel. Now,
yes, and he must tell it to him.
Yeah. Now, we've just been talking about the farmers and the EFF. Now, at Senekal too, I think it was Ndlozi, one of the senior EFF guys, was singing on that little speakers thing that they had, and he was singing the song "Burn the farms, burn the Boers, burn the farms," and everybody was singing along with him. Now, just days after that, fires spread out across the Western Free State. Do you think that these attacks were prompted by what happened at Senekal?
I need to tread carefully here. There are different views. I know that Lucas Swart said that some of them was welding rods that set the fields on fire, and some were lightning strikes, etc. I've seen footage of security cameras capturing guys that said, and I'm not referring to all things, I'm referring to one or two that I've seen, and also witnesses that, and Scott, I mean, there's a few guys that's been arrested. So definitely it's arson. There's no question about it. The question now is, are they linked to the EFF that especially had that, what's the name, in Herzogsville? I'm still waiting for feedback on that. So we haven't received that. If that can be proved, yes, definitely, EFF needs to be held accountable. But that's with regards to tangible proof. Then we can sort them out easy. But we should not forget that they incited that specific type of violence.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes. So so we need to discern between the two, but they are definitely linked in the same way. So if I say, go back a few years ago, there was a guy I remember in a court. He said, "I'm going to kill you," and he actually battled to prove that it was just, it was a campfire saying. I just said, "I want to kill you," but I didn't kill him. But he didn't have a witness. So it's a difficult thing. If you incite violence, you're party to that violence, especially if you are in a leadership position, and especially if you are a politician, and especially if you are a scoundrel wearing red clothes. That's my stance.
Yeah.
I think it's pathetic. I think it's cowardly, because they think if they stand, and that's where the emotions rise. I hate to think if the law doesn't take their own law into own hands, that the people, somebody is going to do something, and I fear that. But we're trying to do it the proper way. We still believe that the court, in some ways, are not sided towards an outcome. And I specifically refer, in Delarable, with, what's this guy's name? Supra Mahopelo or something, one of the mafia guys, the old premier or something he was. And if you see how they manipulate the court. So, it's a 50-50, but we just need to keep the present. Definitely, I think he is party to this whole thing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Now, just while I'm thinking about it, we talked about Freedom Front Plus, and we talked about the ULA briefly. I know both the leaders of those organizations, so if you need a contact there, if you haven't been able to contact them.
No, we contact. They just need to be willing to get into discussions and negotiations. Right. Okay. And not, what I'm referring to, Scott, is be open to discuss the matter on the table. Yeah. Not discuss and try to enforce your view. We're wasting time. What's going to work? Let's make it work and do it fast.
Have a round table.
And be willing.
All right, now let's
that's around the round table. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to forward.
Let's get back to the farms. Now, the Institute of Strategic Planning is currently focused on farm safety initiatives. The question I have is, why have we not heard about your organization until now?
I don't think it's our place to be really in the front end. If we position ourselves among the other organizations, we will not really fulfill our role. And yes, in a sense, it's a self-proclaimed role. That said, it comes out of a need from different organizations and individuals, and especially people on the ground, the mums at home, the dads that's concerned about their families. And time. I think time was the real reason we focused ourselves, especially on the safety side now. We are not there to play a role in the front. We already have great leaders.
Right.
We have, ons het frontleiers ook. There are some really pathetic leaders, and I'm saying it without holding back on that. If you play the ego leadership, you're not really leading. But we have excellent leaders. We've got excellent, amazing organizations, such as the Pixie Pink and the others. Why do we not want to be seen? Because the focus should be on the people that's been doing something for the last few years, people that's really doing an amazing job. And what we're trying to do is just positioning them to be more extraordinary in what they're already doing.
Yeah.
And our joy does not lie specifically in being seen. I think also that being a neutral institution, that we are really neutral. We're not affiliated anywhere. I'm not taking sides. Something makes more sense, then obviously we're going to work with that. But being neutral, you need to be in the background.
Right.
Our focus is to consolidate, to join, to shake hands. And it's, I mean, why? For instance, two parties have a dispute, and it becomes a concern with moving forward and pacing ourselves. Then you do it behind the scenes. I'm not going to become part of a social media fight cage. We're not reaching. There's no benefit in fighting in the front. So
right.
Rather take to people and say, guys, stay off Facebook for a while, from YouTube. Let's sort this out. What's the problem, and how can we assist you in getting to what you need to get to? Because in the end, Scott, it's about people. It's about our people. We're custodians in certain aspects of their promised land, if I need to put it that way. So, yeah, that's where we position ourselves.
So
we enjoy it.
You're basically a facilitator, you could say, facilitating people working together.
Yes, research, and then assisting in taking certain or different parties, individuals or organizations' plans,
right,
and focusing them on getting to the bigger objective, and then assist them in strategizing and putting certain strategies in place, assisting them to become who they need to be in this whole machine that we're working on.
Yeah.
I think that's some.
Do you know Dr. Peter Hammond in Cape Town?
Heard of him?
Yeah, because he's actually a fabulous facilitator as well, and he's working with several groups who want to secede from the Cape and helping them actually work together. So once again, if you'd like to have the contact, I can get Marlena to give that to you. Marlena, if you could perhaps just organize that'd be great.
Marlena, ek skryf het op, nee, you need to give it to me.
I'll get Marlena to give you a call with his number later. Okay, now let's just continue along our road here. Many have tried in the past to consolidate groups together. Why do you think your organization will be more successful than others?
Because we're awesome.
Now, your background is a trainer, isn't it?
Yes. Well, counseling, training, facilitating.
You work with people. This is what you've done all your life. So you've got that in your genes. Okay, right. Well, that's
yes. And if you work with politicians, teenagers are much easier.
Right. Now, carry on.
No, what was the question?
I was okay. We were talking about getting people to work together. How you think you're going to be successful in that?
And I said we were awesome. But okay, you want me to elaborate, Scott? I think the difference, and I'm putting myself here on a tight spot here, because sometimes you fail, sometimes you win. So we're not the golden spoon or the golden goose laying golden eggs. I think we're just trying to do something different. I believe two things. If I can. Yes, let's work on the two sides. I think the one thing is being neutral the whole time. And it's difficult because sometimes you do understand that something's not going to work. But it's not for me to make that decision. If you really believe this is going to work, you can run with that. But it's trying to stay neutral and facilitate people. Again, it's about one person, one-on-one discussions, seeing the bigger picture, trying to understand where you fit in, and then you start with bigger groups, etc. I think being neutral is one thing. The other thing, I need to say this, the Institute has extraordinary people that works in the Institute, with the Institute, and also on certain projects or certain aspects, like Peter Hammond, maybe there's certain places we can definitely work together, and hopefully maybe, there's another vacancy for him as well. So that's the thing, is having extraordinary people working. We, amongst ourselves, we believe in the destiny of kings are determined by their councillors. So we always bounce things off, making sure that we're really on track. It's not an ego thing or personal opinion. And the other thing I think is that we're not trying to consolidate by removing people's identities. I think that's one thing that we didn't do right. We tried to consolidate individuals and organizations who already had the identities over a few years and tried to bring them under one umbrella. That's where we differ. We just want you to, if we decide that this is where we're going to build, and that's why one thing we also not focusing on building the Volksstaat. It's not time for it. There's a lot of court cases or a lot of legal steps to be taken still. So while we're waiting for that, people are getting frustrated. So that's why we focus on the Volkshuis. And within that institution or that house, that grouping, individualism is of high importance. Right. If you look at globalism versus identity. So, and also interesting how the whole political arena is moving from what's the English for beleid? No, I'm training on my English. But it's moving it's moving towards identity politics. So it's more about the identity than anything else. People are fighting this globalism thing. So, I don't know what this Biden era is going to do. But that's the other thing, is we're trying to maintain their identities. Right. People need to be who they are. They need to do what they do. All we're saying is let's just get there. However you get there. If you want to walk around the river, if you want to jump across, that's fine. If you go by boat, that's fine. Let's get there. And also, you don't have to work together always. I mean, there's some of the organizations that might not even work together in their whole lives. Maybe one moment in time. And I think that balance we're trying to keep, right, might be just the difference that we need.
Now, this coming 11th of November, you're hosting a National Safety and Security Conference. How do people contact you first?
Okay, Scott, I need to take you on a different. We've decided not to hold it on the 11th of November. There's a few reasons. We know that time is against us, and we pushed the limits there to do it as fast as possible. There's a few things that transpired the last day or and a half since we've talked, and the 11th for now we've set aside. There's some other meetings that we need to get behind. So let's talk about the upcoming. We're planning it for hopefully by the 25th. We can't extend it further than that. So it might be the 25th, but we'll get it through to the people. How they can contact me, Scott, to get that off the table is just send me a WhatsApp message. My phone number. Can I give my phone number?
Please do.
To all the ladies out there, no. If you want to partake, okay, let me give you the telephone number and then discuss what we're going to do and what the reason for this conference is. And then, so my telephone number is 063 124 2870. Yes, it's 063 124 2870. So the conference, what it's all about is, I mentioned that people with that knowledgeable people and people that do awesome things within the safety community on farm security, etc. We need to get the people to see each other. So there's a lot of institutions, there's a lot of initiatives currently running that is proving successful in combating farm attacks and farm murders. So what we're trying to do is to get all these knowledgeable people together and provide them a platform where they can share what they are doing and how they believe that interaction can happen. So, for instance, there might be a great product that's been used, but that product needs a certain environment, and another company can say, or another institution, but we're working on that already, let's take hands.
Right.
And then, and it's all about, it's the technology, it's training. I know that there are companies that we have been in discussion now to have a standardized training modules, and that's another thing we're working on, to standardize certain training. You know, you've got different trainings, but does it work or doesn't it work? And how does it fit in? You have a level 1, level 2, and a level 3 training, so that all the communities have the same type of training. And another thing that we're trying to do, Scott, is the communication side. So we've been working on that quite deeply, and that's to provide a good national communication system or systems, and not per se trying to roll out a new thing, but taking existing in Afrikaans beheerkamers, communication centers. You know, your farm safety communication networks. Right. But taking that and seeing where they need more cameras or more training, and then facilitate them in increasing their capacity, and in the end having a national network running. So that's one of the great things we have been working on, and there's some extraordinary companies and individuals and organizations on board with that. I also know that the TLUSR, yes, TLUSA, and Vrystaat Landbou, Free State Agriculture, the Agriculture Union, they also part of great initiatives. So the conference is focused on that. And the other thing that we want to focus on there is to invite all the knowledgeable people to partake in the Institute of Strategy Planning's Safety and Security Advisory Committee. So that's a big thing we're working on. I believe that if we have the great minds, and it's not only the academical minds, although they're necessary, but also institutions or individuals that makes a difference. To get those, just imagine if we can have in that environment have knowledgeable people working together.
Right.
So in the end, going back to one of the first discussions, are we available to talk? Yes, on our terms. No, we don't need government anymore. And that's basically the stance that we're taking in. If government, who supposedly have to safeguard our communities, especially the farms, being ignorant towards their role they have to play and their mandate, proving that by sitting next to the EFF, who have no regards to and value to life. Stupid. Well, you said it, there's a 25% brain capacity. I didn't say that.
Yeah, that's being generous. Now, Dennis, I just want to confirm.
Yes,
I just want to confirm your cell number is 0631 242 870.
That's it.
Okay, great.
That's it. That's
yeah. I just wanted to confirm that because we got it in the side chat here. Just needs to make sure we had it right. Okay. Now.
Yeah. So that's the whole thing. So we need to get we need to get that in place. And so from that point, we will have also, lawyers and advocates willing to work together and willing, that there are so many great advocates, so many great lawyers. They want to work together, but they don't know where they can fall in. And this is a great place for them to fall in. And I really invite them. There are some of them that's already on board, and but to build that capacity. So when we have an action against the EFF, we've got one place to contact, and everybody knows. And that's the strategy in the background to also facilitate. So when there's an EFF riot or something, or a land grab, in the back, we make the phone calls. We assist in the communication between POPs and SAPS, the local police station, up to the top. And so there's a lot of things that we do behind the scenes, but we need capacity. As I said, it's not a one-man band. It's not a one-man show. We've been a few people starting and increasing, and we've got extraordinary people on board, but we need more. Everybody that wants to play a role, even in the economical side with the kibbutzes. Yes, man. If you want to get excited, just sit in one of those conversations that we have with what we are busy doing and what we're planning to do.
Wow.
But we need people. We need everybody on board. Mark Steve Hofmeyer, we need you.
Now, what are the criteria to be included on the Security and Safety Advice Council that you run? I mean, and is that also a volunteer position? There's obviously little or no pay if you become involved. Can you just clarify that?
Currently, yes. It's most of the people are voluntary on board. It's not a full-time thing for most of the people, especially on the advisory committees. They work on an ad hoc basis and they do their planning. Full-time staff, yes, there's some remuneration, like a Steers ice cream once in a while. We definitely are looking. we do get donations, and we are grateful for that. It fills big gaps. And it's a difficult game to play with regards to funding. Scott, you know how it goes. Do I get membership fees? Yes, we work on membership fees. Because there's a lot of information that you get back from organizational side. Are we forcing people? It's the last few weeks with the fires, the last year with the food needs from people. So what do? We ask you to give us money, or do we rather tell you fund the food initiatives, fund the drought initiatives? So it's when people feel that they want to invest in what we're doing, it's great. But we will, our website will be up and running in a few days. As I said, we didn't have time there weren't any time to focus on all this nitty gritty.
Well, if you can send me the website address, I'll put it below the video so that people, seeing it's going up in a couple of days, we'll just get that in there.
Yes.
All right. Now,
but for the time being, just phone me and phone me. I will give you the bank account details, etc. But your question was on something else.
But the criteria to be included on the Safety and Security Council.
Thanks. First of all, already being part of any initiative. So we're looking at people that's already doing something. We don't want people to come and say, I've got this idea and I think I can make this happen. We don't have time for that. We need to decide, are we working on plans or not? So if it's a strategy point of view, definitely have that acumen, that character trait. We don't want leaders. So sorry, leaders, if you're a CEO or any way up there, no. your 3IB or anybody that's, let's take for instance the safety and security. We want the safety and security managers. We want the safety and security individuals in farm, boerevereniging, what's it, farming
association. Association.
Thanks. Yeah, farming association. We guys that really work on fire, on safety, on security, on training, but not the head of the company. So the head of the organization, political parties especially. So sorry, Peter, but your safety and security, yes. And the other criteria, Scott, is it needs to be an Afrikaner or a Boer, whatever you want to call ourselves. It needs to be our people. We are doing this for our people. There's other initiatives working on other ethnic groups.
Yeah.
But it's that we take care of ourselves. So there's a black business forum, then we can have Institute for Strategy Planning in our white community as well. I don't think that's unfair. So you definitely need to be focused on the outcome and the benefit of our people.
Yeah,
I mean, that's basically. There are some other criteria. We're not voting on your acceptance. We choose the people. We choose them wisely, and even if you're not chosen on the board, we definitely position you everybody in some way, because you are part of who we are, and you are significant. Everybody is significant, even my mother-in-law.
Okay, I'm going to start putting questions to you that came from the side chat. Okay, Lord of Ice Coffee said, to the ANC, we can rather put it in another account and start fixing up our places instead of letting the ANC steal it, roads, schools, etc. Now, this is where it becomes quite interesting, because I believe the ANC see the minority white community as a cash cow that they can loot through tax. Now, if you've got your own kibbutz or whatever you like to call it, are you still subject to their taxation?
It depends. If you barter, no. If you stay under the tax curve, no. So it's strategically positioning a kibbutz or your own company. Why do you want to have a big company if your expenses are higher than your income on a smaller company? I mean, that's something that we need to look at. So no, one thing that does still bother me is, and from the question, do you really think, Scott, do you really think government wants to rebuild something? Do you really think they want to build something? If you look at how they looted, how they take SAA now, 10 billion rand, they're taking it from, here's the thing, okay? Back to Tele. Why we say we're not talking anymore, why we are saying we've got the solution, we will work on it ourselves. Becky Tele says the police doesn't have the capacity to take care of fire. They don't even have the capacity to have a working SAP station, an office. They don't have the capacity. They don't have the will. They don't have the knowledge. They're incapable of taking care of general safety in our country. So I just wanted to make that clear. That's the reason we don't want to talk. Now, let's take the economy. We are not welcome in the economy. Great, no problem. Have a nice day. We'll sort our own parallel economy. We're not going to shut down the economy. We're just going to focus on ourselves first. So if you don't want us to be part of the normal economy by forcing your BEE hand on us, we're not shaking that hand, sorry, because we know where this is going towards. And it's not something, if they want to argue the point, and I'm going slightly off, okay, let's focus on that. The ANC doesn't want to rebuild something. They just want to break something down. So we don't want to be part of that economy.
Yeah.
It's a spiral.
Yeah. No, I get it. Okay, now Viking Boer said, "I'm surprised that Dennis does not know Heinmarks." I think you do, don't you? You know
No, I
Heinmarks.
know I'm.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I know I'm.
Do you
Dennis,
know?
I don't know.
He asked, "Do you know Isaac van Zyl from Boer Elision?"
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So that's answered that question. Um, Angera Meiberg.
Sorry,
How?
if I miss Viking Boer, sorry man. My fout as jy my gemis het.
Angera Meiberg. How will you achieve feeling safe?
How would I achieve feeling safe?
Yeah, because I guess what Angera is saying is that nobody in South Africa feels safe.
No, nobody does feel safe. Well, I've got two options. You prepare a nice cottage for me on your ground and I'll move there. Or we try to do our best in bringing about security and safety. Scott, we've got two things here. We can either stick to the Rainbow Nation principle and try to fight our position back into this. It's not going to work. Okay, we're going to frustrate ourselves. We're going to lose valuable our wealth. We are losing wealth as we try to make this work. The only solution is to get our own piece of land, to get our own promised land, to walk into that. So I'm going to use the word talking about internal self-determination. Let's use that model.
Right.
It's the most logical thing to work on. So if you have farms, this just to make this statement, I'm going to stay broad on this in general. If you want to secure different farms across the country, you're not going to win it because you need a functional police and you need a functional system, legal system. So you're not going to get that functional legal system in the country, in South Africa. You're not going to get that police system back on track because you don't have the political will. They've got a different agenda. A friend of mine used the 3 C's. Now I need to remember this. Confuse, or first it's corrupt, confuse, and then control. So basically getting this whole thing corrupted and loot everything as you can, break it down, and then you convince and control. There's no way we can maintain a long-term secure and safe environment 100%. So
right.
We're definitely going to stop farm murders, but farm attacks, we might not miss one or two. It's definitely going to fall, become low statistics. But still, and we must not forget, we've got much higher murders and attacks, and I'm talking about gruesome attacks in towns, in cities. Yeah. We actually should not talk about and exclude farm murders as the whole thing. It's murder of our people, full stop, and it's brutal. Yes, in the black communities, colored communities, you might have the same. We're not focusing on that. They must focus on their own communities. And that's where people are missing. Yes, but you think that farm attacks are the whole. No, we just focus on it. That's our right to focus on it. We are concerned. But if you consolidate all those farms in one area, then you just have a perimeter that you need to secure. So the short of the answer is, in the end, walking into the promised land, securing the perimeters around that is much easier than to try and be safe within your own, in this whole South African thing. The other thing that I think she's referring to is this feeling of safety. It's a different thing.
Yes, exactly.
And I think that's where the morale is quite low, is that people don't feel safe. So we are losing, we stop laughing. We stop being funny. And I think that's one thing that we in the Institute would like to see coming back. It's right. Working towards children riding on their bicycles, feeling safe, walking in hermanas on the beach, not feeling threatened. And I like that one Swedish couple that was attacked and they just flew back. So feeling safe is something it's a moral thing that we need to work on, but it goes hand in hand in the practical rollout of safety initiatives.
Right. Now, ICAT has asked, do you know the Commando Corps?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Oki has asked,
Okay.
Dennis, who can we
50 points. Yes.
Dennis, who can we contact in the Vaal area to support your case?
It all depends. Best is to contact me, and then I can refer you to the right people, the proper in the Vaal area. But currently we are national. With this whole Zoom thing and lockdown, we are so spread out, and people are all over the country. I don't think we don't have offices in the Vaal area. We basically, but if they want to get involved, just phone me and we will sort something out there. Sorry, that's the best I can do for now.
Okay. Greg Adams has asked, could you ask the smart man if Orania, along with the Orange River, to a Knowles port, I think that is the right name, on the Atlantic Ocean, could be a viable Boer state?
That question is towards you. You're the knowledgeable person here.
Well,
thank you for that. That's 50 points for you. That's 50,000 points for you. I don't know. There's a lot of things that I think. Orania is there, so it's one of those things that we need to make work. But it's not going to be an excluded or exclusive area. I don't think it's going to be like an island thing. Orania needs to tap into something. It needs to tap into a bigger picture. Yeah. And that bigger picture, it's sad that, and I'm going to say it, I would love to a lot of people feel that that there's certain groupings or organizations that do not want to work together. They would either take you over, absorb you, or they will just distance themselves from you. And I think that's something, and I think they know who I'm talking about. It would be nice if that conversations could divert everything into a different path. But with Orania, definitely they need to tap into something else. As a secluded or excluded economy, it's not going to work. I can't see it work. If there's some hidden diamond fields underneath Orania, I would like to know about that. It changes the whole thing. The Orange River, definitely, that's a good resource for a lot of things. But the argument or the conversation is much wider than just a question. Sorry. Okay.
Now, I think we've answered or put all the questions to you. In conclusion, what is the way forward in your strategy?
The way forward. We need to start with Julius Malema, but that's for another day. The way forward, Scott, is just do what we do and do it better. Work together, focus on getting the volks harte into a volkshuis. We need to focus on ourselves. We need to get ourselves into shape. You can't go onto a rugby field if you haven't practiced, if you haven't consolidated your scrum and your backlines. We need to get our strategies in line. That's the most important. I can't see anything else. There's a lot of great plans currently being rolled out in different areas, but it's not getting anywhere. There's a lot of discussions. There's a lot of meetings and conversations and trying to find the leader in the brown jacket. We need to focus on the immediate problems and challenges. The immediate challenges is sorting out ourselves, getting the morale high, getting that excitement back, believing in who we are, not listening to anybody else, not listening to the opinions of the EFF, who we are not, and what the ANC want to do with us. We just need to do it ourselves and do it good and do it great. I think that's one of the things way forward. The other thing is we are a religious people. I think that's one of the greatest foundations of who
Yes,
we are.
absolutely.
And I'm not excluding atheists in being an Afrikaners. I still love the atheists. They've got good conversations, love to talk, especially 2 o'clock in the morning. But I think one thing is if we want to bow our knees, we need to get on our knees. We need to sort ourselves out. We need to know our stance in front of God. I think that's very important. And we need to consolidate that part of our heart. If we go into, wat's gelofte in Engels nou weer?
Promise. Promise?
Yeah, that's something else. But anyway, the Afrikaans people will know. So I'm actually talking to them. You just need to listen. In the gelofte, that between us and God, going back to bloedrivier and all those times.
The covenant.
Covenants. Thanks, man. So we are covenant people in that sense, not wider than. I don't want to go wider than just what we went through in history the last 100 and something years, right. 120 years. Is that we need to acknowledge that we need to get back to our covenants. 16 December is especially one of those moments. And there's a lot of other things. It would be nice if you can talk to, I can't remember what's his name, that did a lot of research. Maybe I've had a discussion with him with all the those murder camps, the British murder camps.
Concentration camps.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of covenants that we made before and after,
right.
And we need to go back to that. That's our starting point. So yeah, that's part of the way forward. We need to humble ourselves and who we are, consolidate, refocus, and re-strategize. Strategize. We need to strategize. Another thing also is we need to start understanding who our enemy is. That's one thing that we are missing, and I would like to invite the guys that work on those type of things. We need to understand that we are fighting an invisible enemy.
Yeah.
We can't just approach them in a forward, toe-to-toe sense. Meeting somebody toe-to-toe, you really have to have a background on who that person is, a profile. So we do profiling. There's a lot of initiatives. But the way forward is just we need to do what we do and just do it good. And we just need to start smiling again. That's one of the great things.
Yeah.
Even if we're not in a good space.
Now, Viking Boer has asked, does Dennis think that our leaders consult their sangomas for help?
Yes, there's proof of it. There's a lot of proof in that. I can't give you any details on it, but I'm trying to. Julius Malema definitely. What's the other guy's name? He's also in EFF. Yes, definitely. They definitely consult their sangomas. But unfortunately, I can't remember the specific person that I'm trying to refer to.
Floyd Shivamba?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Julius, Floyd, all those guys. I mean, yeah. Let's just leave it there.
Well, I know Cyril Ramaphosa sees Sangoma because I've actually seen a video of him visiting the Sangoma just a few months ago. All right, now...
and he also goes to church.
Yeah, well, totally screwed up. Now, Dennis, is there anything that I haven't covered that you'd like to cover?
Sure. Another 2 hours?
we lose our audience.
No, I think, Scott... No, I think we've covered everything that we decided on talking now. I know there's a lot of topics and a lot of questions out there, and answering the questions takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Another thing is just ignore fake news, ignore anything other than who you are. I think we've covered everything.
Yeah. All right, well, look, I'm going to ask you to make a closing statement just to people watching this video now or who might watch it later, just on anything you want to talk about. I'm going to hand the floor over to you.
In English or Afrikaans?
Either. Afrikaans is fine if you feel more comfortable in Afrikaans.
Okay, dankie. elkeen van ons wat deel is van hierdie Afrikaner boerevolk, of jy nou verregs is of jy nou liberaal is, op hierdie stadium is daar net een ding wat ons gaan red, en dit is as ons saam staan. Ja, ons het verskille, ja, ons het issues met mekaar ensovoorts, en daar's 'n bietjie ego ook tussen. Ek dink die grootste ding wat vir my belangrik is dat ons glo in onsself. Ons moet glo wie ons is, ons moet glo en vertrou dat ons kan doen wat ons wil doen. En die belangrikste ding is, die swakste skakel bepaal die sterkte en die spoed van wie ons is. Op hierdie stadium is dit baie belangrik om hierdie volkshart, hierdie ongelooflike volkshart, wat internasionaal erken word. Ek dink is tyd dat ons hierdie volkshart vat en ons plaas dit in 'n volkshuis. Dis waar ons hoort. Ons het 'n huis, ons is wie ons is en ons het actually 'n huis waar ons is. Ons geloftes is belangrik. Ons moet terugkom by ons geloftes. Ek wil dit nie 'n vreeslike geestelike ding maak nie, maar ek dink balans is baie belangrik. Daar's nie 'n ander manier nie. Ons moet nie uitkyk vir hulp nie. Amerika gaan ons nie kom help nie. Ons eie regering is nie hier om ons te help nie, maar ons het genoeg in ons. Ons Bybel sê ons het die volheid van God het liggaamlik binne in ons. Ons het nie nodig dat iemand ons hoef te vertel wie ons is en wat ook al nie. Glo wie jy is, vertrou wie jy is en ek nooi jou uit. Op enige manier, word deel van wat ons besig is om te doen. Word deel van jou eie organisasie, jou eie gemeenskapsveiligheid. Kry jouself weerbaar. Word deelnemend. Geniet wat jy doen en glo wat jy doen. Op die einde van die dag, ek is 'n pa en ek sal altyd 'n pa bly en ek weet hoe voel dit om van 'n pa se kant af hierdie ding te sê. Maar jy is belangrik. Jy is die leier in jou huis, jy is die geleier in jou gemeenskap. Ons leiers is genoeg. Ons het nie nodig om leiers te gaan soek nie. Ons het nodig om in ons eie gemeenskappe in te koop. So word deelnemend, and thank you for all the people in this world that still believe in who we are. Thank you, Scott, for people like you that give us the opportunity of also explaining who we are, and thank you for everything. Thank you for all the donations that will start coming into the Institute of Strategy Planning. Okay. Don't stop giving. Thanks a lot.
You're very welcome, Dennis. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. We'll keep in touch with you, and if something big happens, please let us know, and we'll have you back on another live stream. Now, I just want to thank the moderators for the great work they do as usual. I see that they had a couple of people I had to tick off, which is fine. I always support my moderators. Now, someone has asked, do you have a website? Now, you don't at this stage. It is going to be up in a couple of days' time, isn't it?
Yes, it will be. We're just deciding which of the two we're going to use, but I will definitely send it to you by latest tomorrow at the latest.
Okay, and what I'll do is I'll put that in the description below this video, so people can just click on that. And
thank you.
Yeah, that's not a problem at all. Okay, yeah, thanks moderators for all the great work that you do. Thank you for all those who've followed us the whole way through. We've still got close to 300 people watching. It's been nice. Quite a marathon live stream, and I think I've learned a lot about your organization in particular. And yeah, as I said, I look forward to catching up with you again in the future.
Sounds great, Scott. Thank you. Appreciate it. And all the guys out there, thank you for staying up late with us.
All right, guys, take care. I'm going to sign out, shut down the live stream now. Viking says, say many thanks for Dennis for this very interesting topic and also answering my questions. Your questions to Dennis was top, so well, thank you, Viking. All right, guys, take care, and I'll leave the side chat open for a few minutes so you can exchange pleasantries and say goodbye, and take care. Bye for now.